if you get people to actually look at what's happening to animals, it actually does change them. The trick is getting them to see it.
Welcome to the Hen Report. This is Jasmin Singer.
This is Mariann Sullivan.
And the Hen Report is part of our hen house, and we're so glad you're here. We have 4 podcasts. Is that right? 4 podcasts?
Well, sort of 4. I think we could call it 4.
Okay, we have 4 podcasts now. Rising Anxieties comes out on Tuesdays. The Hen Report this Thursdays. The long form interview on most Fridays, and the Animal Law podcast on the last Friday of the month. And we are on YouTube now, so feel free to subscribe and like it and like this episode.
Well, don't just feel free. Feel obligated. Feel like it's really, really important, or something bad could happen to you.
Oh my God.
Desperate times.
I'm a little scared of you today, I have to say. Just
Why? I haven't done anything today.
That was scary. And you were giving off like some scary vibes. You know, people say you're scary sometimes.
No, I'm in a relatively good mood, mostly because I really like this article by Kenny Terrell that we're going to be talking about. I really like it a lot.
Cool.
I think you're going to like it too.
You as in the listener.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you too.
I did like
both
it.
You and you.
And you.
So I know when people gesture on YouTube, I mean, in the first place, if you're listening on the podcast, I was gesturing. And even if you're listening on YouTube, you know how people gesture to things and it's usually the wrong way or something, or turn to each other, and on your screen, they're on the other side. Yeah.
So
gotta avoid that.
I want to tell
something. Yeah, you have big news.
Yeah, Moore and I thought we should get a dog. Because we only had 4 and we only had 2 cats, and we thought, why not get a 5th dog? We actually saw this like little old Chihuahua. They say she's 12, but I think she's
you saw
older.
her online.
Yeah, but like,
and you know, Jasmin, if you look for little old Chihuahuas online, you will see them.
They do. That is how it works. They do appear when you
search for little old Chihuahua.
I'm
near
trying
Rochester,
to use,
New York.
You know what? I'm trying to use the passive voice here on purpose. So like, let me. But anyway, I have the Chihuahua disease. I just love Chihuahuas, and I love adopting old dogs. I mean, it honestly brings me so much.
I'm not objecting. I was just
I know it brings me so much joy, and so. We got this little, she's on my lap right now, but I don't know if I could show her. Well, I guess I can move the camera.
You have to move her. Aw. Yeah, it's a little hard to see.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to, you know.
Yeah. No, don't disturb her. Maybe she'll wake up.
No. I didn't put on Do Not Disturb on my phone, and I just looked down at my phone.
I didn't either.
I have a text from like an animal rescuer neighbor who just said, I just dropped off a bag of clothes you might want and put it on your front porch. Oh. That's because the Buy Nothing group is amazing. Like, I am obsessed with it. And this person who is very much in the animal rescue world is also in the Buy Nothing group. And it's just so supportive and lovely. Anyway, back to June. So her name is June, and it might be July now, but it is the season of June. And June is, in fact, busting out all over. What? Too many minutes?
I don't know. It doesn't, like, her name is June. It's a beautiful name. Like,
was one of my
I don't think we need a whole lot of like references.
Well, we name our animals after our ancestors, and it was one of my grandma's names.
There you go.
Yeah, and I love her. She is a darling, and it's only at the time of this recording, it's only the second day we've had her.
Fresh and alive and gay and young. June is a love song, sweetly sung.
It fits her really well. She is all about her new vegan lifestyle, by the way. She's got the vegan clothes. She's got the vegan kibble. She loves it.
I'm sure she's really excited about it. She's always wanted to like get out of the trap of abusing animals.
No, she's wanted to live in alignment with her ethical beliefs. So welcome to the family, June. We love you. I was starting to watch the other day because I need to spend a lot of time with June on my lap because that is where she wants to be.
I'm going to sit back too so I don't look so gigantic.
Okay, but your sound gets a little worse when you do that.
Never mind.
Okay.
All right, sorry.
I started to watch The Shark Whisperer, which is, I think it's on Netflix, and it reminds me a little of The Octopus Teacher, and my guess is it got pitched around the time that The Octopus Teacher came
Is
out.
this movie a big deal, like that everybody's heard of? Because I am so detached from popular culture right now.
I don't think it's as big of a deal as The Octopus Teacher, but it like just started streaming, and I started watching it. And it's about this woman who feels like her life's calling is to spend time with sharks and advocate for them and show people that they're not the like monsters that people make them out to be. I don't know if you can hear scratching, but that's one of my dogs scratching my door, and it is open, so he could just walk in, but sorry about that noise. Anyway, so Moore was like kind of annoyed by it because we only
Moore is your wife.
Yeah, we got like halfway through, and she was like, it's too much about the woman, whose name, by the way, is Ocean. Like her parents named her Ocean. And
that's John Robbins' son's name, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think so.
Interesting. Okay. Well, rest in peace. To John Robbins, not to his son, hopefully. Knock on particle board. So anyway, she felt like the focus was too much on the person and not enough on the animal. And I was thinking about that.
Moore felt about the movie.
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot. I think that often.
I think it's good. I mean, I don't think it's good, but I think that appeals to more people as long as they still get the message vis-a-vis the animals. People like stories, and people like stories about people.
It is really cool. This woman, like, she can hold her breath for 6.5 minutes, by the way. So she feels like, I know, she feels like not going underwater with like all the breathy things helps her seem more like an animal, like swimming around with them. Yeah. And it's really fascinating. Yeah.
6.5 minutes.
I know. She talked a little bit about how she trained herself to do that and how.
No, I've heard you can train yourself, but wow, that seems insane.
She said like when you start to think like, oh my God, I have to breathe now, you can actually tell yourself, no, your body has more resources. Like you can get through this, and it can. I'm not going to try. I just wanted you to know that I'm not going to attempt that.
I hadn't really. It wasn't a big worry of mine.
Okay, good. Well, I haven't finished it yet, but I think I'm going to, despite the fact that more isn't.
I think we're seeing more and more books and movies about animals. I mean, not a lot, but I think there is a little bit of a trend there. And I really think that could be powerful. And I like the approach of telling stories about people's relationship to animals. I think that works.
I have not been able to find my thermos for like a week, and I just saw it in my video screen in my background, found my thermos. I agree with you. I think it works too. I mean, the end of Octopus Teacher annoyed me because it was like it became a metaphor for how you could see the world differently. I just
I'm gonna admit something that's embarrassing. I never saw it.
The Octopus Teacher. I know that. Why is that embarrassing? You want to know something? Can I tell you something embarrassing, like truly embarrassing?
I mean, I already knew that I loved octopi. No, octopuses. It's supposed to be octopuses, and that I wish them no harm. I didn't feel the need to watch the movie.
Why not? So this is embarrassing. I was hosting Environmental Connections the other day. That's my 2 times a month radio show on WXXI, which is the NPR station here. And one of the episodes was about sewage sludge, which is basically everything we flush down the toilet, and how it is being spread onto farmland. And ew, so gross. And one of my guests' name was Murray, and he was like a scientist at Cornell. And so when I was introducing him, I said, Murray, I promised my wife that even though you have the same name as our poodle, I would not say that you're a good boy. And he
you said this to this man?
Yeah, and he just
who you'd never met before?
No, I had never met him before. And he just sat there, and I just then kept talking.
Okay.
Yeah. that happened. But okay, wait. The coolest thing ever in the history of radio happened during that hour. I am so excited about it. So, at one point, one of my guests, a scientist at the University of Rochester, and a hydrologist, is that how you say it? She specializes in hydrology. There, I said that. Okay. She was saying that, yeah, okay. She was saying that something about, like how this leaks into our food. And she said, so the next time you pick up milk or eggs, you know, who knows what's in it? And I was like, okay, I have a self-serving question. What about if someone doesn't eat animal products? Is it as likely that it would be in it? And she said, it is not as likely that it would be in it.
That's really interesting. I had no idea.
And I go...
And I just want to... Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, I just said, fascinating. Because I just stepped on a gold mine, you guys. Like, this is the new vegan campaign. There will not be human shit in your food.
I just want to make clear, too, my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's not just that it's human poop. I mean, human poop has been used as fertilizer. I mean, particularly in China, called night soil. And you know, it was probably at a time when most Chinese people were mostly vegetarian anyway. It's all of the, it's not just poop. It's like all of these horrible toxic substances that are also in the sewage sludge. So it's like a poop, like stew of poison.
It's a poop stew of poison. Vicky, do not name today's episode a poop stew of poison. So my other episode was an interview with Eileen Flanagan, who has a book coming out called Common Ground, and it's about like a coalition building within, you know, fractured communities, like who are like oppositional communities. And one of the things she was talking about was how you could find common ground, like the same stake, stake, stake. And she said, like, for example, I might not be able to get people to care that much about Botswana, but I have a child and I want to care about my child. And I want people to care about the children in Botswana. Like, the common element there is that we're all parents or something. And then she went on to say something about how there was this huge drive that was ignited in her when she had her kid. And I let her finish. And I said, I just want to add that as a person who chose not to have children, and I used that word, chose, you know, I get, and even some people who do have kids, I'm sure this is true for them. I get that same sense of meaning from my animals and from wild animals and from nature. And she, for the rest of the show, like wove in animals into like her messaging.
Good. Yeah. I mean, for those of you who aren't familiar, because we have talked about this many times, but Jasmin and I are both particularly annoyed by the, as a parent, mother, introduction to why I care about anything, as if it is impossible to care about anything until you have a kid. And it particularly irks me when I find that an awful lot of people who use that wording, and many people who, you know, just happen to have kids, don't seem to care at all about the future of the planet or the world or the air or the climate. Like, they don't, like, they're oblivious. I seem to care about the future of their kids so much more than they do. Anyway, I will go on, but I'm not sure everybody knows how annoying you and I both find it. As a parent, or when I became a parent, like, you know, it's possible to care about things. I'm not discounting the fact that parenthood is, for some people, I mean, for many people, and definitely not for all of them, you know, a mind-altering experience to care that deeply about. And I mean, I understand it's a big deal, but, you know, move on.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm saying that to myself.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, I see. It's not like an anti-breeding statement that we're making here, by the way. This is just like,
no, I mean, I could make one of those, but I'm not making one.
I want to just say, like, from a more of a banal example would be, you know, you're watching the news and some kid was lost at the playground and they interview someone else and she says, as a mother, I can't imagine how horrifying it would be. And like as a empathic person,
as a normal
neither can I, So it's just like this added sort of, thing. All right, let's move on to some you pulled out some news stories.
Yeah, no, I have some news stories, and then there's one article, the one I referred to earlier, that I really want to talk about. But I do want to cover a few of these things because we've talked about before, either here or on Rising Anxieties, I forget where, but about, the bill, Trump's bill. And at the moment that we're recording this, it has passed both houses, but it hasn't yet been reconciled in the House. It, passed the Senate. Anyway, one of the things that we were most exercised about, though there are many, many things to be upset about here, but from an animal perspective in particular, was the sale of public lands. And they took that out. Senator Mike Lee, this is from CBS News, Senator Mike Lee removes public lands provision from Trump's big, beautiful bill, which is, I guess, are they still calling it that? I don't know. And this was his reason. Because of the strict constraints of the budget reconciliation process. I mean, this is Mike Lee's. He's the one who introduced it. I was unable to secure clear, enforceable safeguards to guarantee that these lands would be sold only to American families, not to China, not to BlackRock, and not to any foreign interests. And I mean, there are a lot of American families who I do not want owning our public lands. I can assure you, like a loathsome thing to say, but really, really good news that they're not going to belong to American families. They're going to belong to all American families and non-families and all of us, and most importantly, all of the animals who live in them. Of course, I'm sure some of these public lands are being rented out for grazing, which is a whole other topic. But this is good. This was good news. And
public lands are public for a reason.
In Rising Anxieties this week, which came out the other day, I also talked about just the fact that these American families who, who would have wanted to own these public lands, which probably a lot of them are renting now, at very low rates, I might add. The other thing that's in this bill that's really benefiting them is the tax exemption, estate tax exemption for millions and millions of dollars, so that they can pass these lands on, because they all grew up watching Dynasty and what was the Dallas, and they all think of themselves as having a dynasty out in the West, and they're pretty far. I swear those programs had an influence on these people, and this is what they want to do. They don't want anybody else except their family to get hold of these lands. Anyway, I digress. All right, well, next piece of good news. I have another piece of good news.
I know. I want to break the news because I love this news. And because in honor of my new Chihuahua, I feel like talking about Mexico. Mexico made history this week.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it gave a very powerful, overdue nod to the sentience of other species. In a unanimous vote, its Chamber of Deputies and Senate passed a sweeping ban on the use of marine mammals in captive entertainment. So no more dolphin shows, no more performing sea lions, no more orcas.
Maybe we should take a look at this and, do something similar here.
It's a landmark law.
This article says that there are an estimated 350 dolphins in captivity in Mexico currently, and they will have to be relocated to sea pens, which I guess is the best that they can do for them. And unanimous. Really, really great news. I love this story. There's not a lot to make us happy. I don't know whether this makes you happy or not, but pig fat cell production could transform lab-grown meat. I think that makes us happy, though it's in Drovers, which is, a meat industry publication. So I'm always wary of anything. They're not saying it's good. I doubt that they do think it's good. They're just reporting on it. This is by Jennifer Scheich. This discovery represents a significant step forward for the global lab-grown meat market, which is estimated to grow by between $5 and $30 billion by 2030. So, maybe the Trump administration doesn't mean we're getting this stuff, but the meat industry does. And apparently, I know this isn't going to excite you people unless for some reason you're one of those vegans who has really missed the taste of pig fat. But for those who really are in love with the taste of pig fat, apparently, now they can make it. And the cells that they have come up with to do this grow indefinitely, so they don't have to keep taking them from more and more suffering pigs.
But they do originate. I know our audience is going to be like, but where do they originate? They do still originate from animals, and so many people do have some ethical questions around sourcing.
Oh yeah, nobody has to eat this stuff. And, maybe it's just a step in the right direction, but I don't see how it could be seen as a step in the wrong direction. Maybe some people do, I don't know. But anyway.
The promise is there. So I think this is good news. The future of food is about who we're willing to stop eating. I think that this makes that clear.
There are still many people, and this isn't on an ethical basis, but there are still many people who just think that cell-based meat or whatever we're calling it, it ain't going to happen. It's not it's not serious. There are far more setbacks than we're. So I don't know. I don't know. I can only tell you what I see in the newspapers.
Just don't get mad at Mariann if you don't like this story.
We've never gotten anybody who got mad at that. They're so paranoid. People understand that we are incredibly nuanced.
Okay.
Maybe they don't. But nobody ever gets mad. Well, some people have gotten mad at me, but people don't write in from our Hen House audience saying, how dare you talk about this? Nobody does that. Do you think I just started it?
Yeah, there's a campaign now.
Let's talk about this next story.
Okay. This is about animals used in research. And
this story is from Rise for Animals.
The Animal Welfare Act. I mean, you're the lawyer, but it's already a very weak law that doesn't cover the vast majority of animals used in labs, like mice and rats and birds and fish are all excluded. So tell us about the news.
So it just got weaker. This isn't a good news story. This is a bad news story. There is really they don't do any enforcement of the Animal Welfare Act in labs by criminal prosecution. It's just fines. The fines are weak. The fines are always reduced drastically. It's really hard to get them, but they do exist for, really egregious stuff. But then there's this Supreme Court decision, which didn't have anything to do with animals or the Animal Welfare Act, but the court held that federal agencies aren't allowed to impose civil penalties without a trial. There's nothing in the Animal Welfare Act that allows for trials. So that means now they can't even impose fines. All they can do is find out, I guess, you violated the law. Please don't do it again. That's like that old Robin Williams line. What do the police officers in the UK do when they don't carry guns? Say, stop, or I'll say stop again. That's pretty much where we are with enforcing the Animal Welfare Act. Wow. And, of course, Congress could easily rectify this, but, Congress can't find its shoes in the morning, so that seems unlikely.
Well, unfortunately...
that's the news.
Yeah.
Some good news, some not so good news.
Some not so good news. But let's chat about this Vox story, because I know that you're excited about it, and I am too. I think this is really interesting fodder, and of course, interesting fodder, generally speaking, when it's on Vox, is from Kenny Torella. So if you're listening to this, chances are you have tried to persuade someone to eat fewer animal products or to give it up. And it's hard work. I don't know why it's hard work. It seems like everyone should go vegan once they figure out what's happening to animals. And there's mounting evidence that animal agriculture is catastrophic for everybody, for the animals first and foremost, but also for the planet and the slaughterhouse workers and public health, certainly. So there's a new study out of the University of Toronto that suggests that persuasion, and I mean real values-based, gut-level persuasion, might still have a powerful place. Do you want to take it from
I'm not even sure I would call it persuasion. It's basically somehow or other get people to watch Dominion. That's what it's about. I mean, and it's specifically Dominion. They're not just talking about any factory farming footage, but this is really interesting. They showed people, and of course these people had to watch it because they were part of this experiment, a 16-minute clip from Dominion, particularly about pigs. And the control group watched a video about mushrooms. And it actually seemed to have an effect. Before watching the video, 90.1% of students chose meat in their meal. A week after watching the video, 77.9% did, a 12.2% decline of the people who would watch Dominion. Demand for pork specifically fell more sharply. And isn't this what our hen house and what our listeners have believed all through the past 10 years of the animal rights movement kind of floundering, trying to find the answer because showing people what happens doesn't work. And this, one of the points they make here is that I said specifically Dominion, and it's not actually only Dominion. It's that it's a really well-made film. It's a very high quality film. Another thing that they point out, it's totally unflinching. That's what I'm told, because I've never made myself watch it. But the narrator, who is Rooney Mara, she speaks with a flat tone. There's not a lot of drama. She explains everything that's happening. And one of the things that particularly was notable to me, there's no appeal. Nobody says to eat less meat. Nobody says what you should do with this information. I think that might be, the study is not good enough to divide down what it is about this particular interaction that made people respond. There are other flaws with the study as well. But I think not telling people what they should do with this information might be really good. And not sugarcoating it. The people need the facts.
While you were talking about that, I found myself wondering if it's, in fact, a little harder to advocate for animals right now to other people because of the current age and time we live in, where people are very skeptical of what they're being told in general. Like, people don't know where to look. And so I think people tend to dig their heels in and run away. Or I guess you can't dig your heels in and run away at the same time. You'd have to take your heels off. They dig their heels in, they slip the heels off, they run away once they're being confronted with something that could inspire a lifestyle change. And so I agree that not giving them a directive is important, is very important.
Yeah, that's just a guess, but they decided to go with it. And it was a young group, so it wasn't full age groups. That's fine. It skewed slightly female. So that's fine. If we can convince all young females not to eat meat, that would be fine. And they didn't actually track what people ate. They took their reporting as truth. But there have been other studies that used a similar type of approach. They had this voucher where they could win a meal and whatever. And in that study, they did track what students ate. It was a totally different topic, and it seemed to be accurate. People did report accurately. And as this article says, all this suggests that persuading individuals to eat less meat, a goal that many in the animal advocacy movement have largely given up on, might not be as hopeless as previously thought. Because we haven't given up on it. That's still our favorite route of activism. And I bet most of the people listening to us, because why else would they listen to us, haven't given up on it. But it's true that, everybody's like, it's more corporate campaigns. Don't go for individuals. Go for, cage-free campaigns. Try to make things better. What else do they talk about in here? By 2015, the largest animal advocacy organizations were shifting their focus toward political and corporate campaigns to ban some of the most egregious factory farm practices, like tiny cages for pigs and egg-laying hens. The idea was that instead of trying to influence one person at a time, which had proven so difficult, they'd instead change the food system. And, obviously, one by one is like there's way too many people. But at the same time, one by one is how people operate. And I've always believed in it. This article doesn't actually also mention the influence of the effective altruism money, which really didn't take a lot of the organizations have been able to grow and do much more and be more powerful because of the effective altruism money, which really is not necessarily donated by people who believe in quitting completely. They are interested in cutting out the worst of the suffering. And so also a lot of effort has gone into replicating the food. And, that was great for a while, and now it doesn't seem to be doing that well. They're all struggling and getting the laws passed. Some states are now rolling back animal welfare laws that advocates had previously persuaded them to adopt. Many food companies that pledge to eliminate eggs from cage hens in their supply chain aren't following through. That is not to say that these campaigns have not been successful. They have been. But I think the idea that so much of the movement really moved away from this, talk them into it, don't talk them into it. That's the wrong thing to say. Show them what's happening.
Show them to look.
Come up with a way to get them to look. And a lot of people will change.
I like this story as a lab-grown pig's piggyback to the story about the cultivated meat. I didn't want to say piggybacking because that's exploitative, but we were talking about cultivated meat pigs. But I just like this sort of multi-pronged approach that as a study like this is coming out, we start to see shifts. And that story about the pig from before was reported by Big Ag and not even like a vegan media group. So this is very hopeful. I wanted to tell you something real quick, and I had to open my phone because I'm listening to an audiobook right now for a book. I'm in a book club and we choose a different genre every time. And so it's YA right now. And someone suggested The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, Atta. And so like, we were all like, okay, like we didn't even really look into it. And like the kid in it, his mom is vegan. And so this thing keeps happening where she's like, it's not always good. Like she's serving like a vegan meat and like the kids are like, what is this? Like, it's not always good. However, it does not let go of this message. And so there's this one person who comes in who's 17 and was like, I've gone vegan. I went vegan 2 weeks ago. And someone says, why? And she says, because I'm about to start college and I want to start college as a better person than I was. And so like it feels almost like it's reflective of reality in terms of...
I think that kind of messaging is good, but I really have come to believe, I really have, that and there's studies on this too, the most persuasive thing is getting people to watch what's happening. Like it's that visceral experience of seeing what's happening to the animals. You don't have to tell people, you have to show them.
Well, and at one point, the main protagonist walks into the room and like a bunch of people are watching a movie and he says, what are you watching? And someone says, the movie that made us all go vegan. Like it's just interesting. Like it really, anyway, so thank you for finding
books like that and the mentions like that. They set the scene to make it easier for people to make a change. Yeah. But it's the footage. It's always been the footage. And as this article points out, the footage done well. Not grainy, middle of the night footage that may influence how we feel and make us sick to our stomachs. But you have to show people like a real movie. Unfortunately, we've got at least one. Can I just read the end of this story? Sure. And there's a couple of other things I want to mention before we finish. But this story is so important to me. I just wanted to add their conclusion. The case for both dietary change and meat industry reforms can be made persuasively. Based on the Dominion study, it might only take 16 minutes of an unvarnished look into factory farms for it to break through to some people. In today's crowded attention environment, capturing those 16 minutes of people's time will be harder than ever. But Green, that's the person from the study, said it's still worth the effort. Quote, I think that persuasion is a beautiful thing where we try to convince people using reason and argument and take them seriously as moral agents, he said. I do not want to give up on this. Well, I agree with you. I don't want to give up on it either. And there are two stories that I thought were interesting in the context of this study. Mm-hmm. This is crazy. I had not heard this. It's both good and Switzerland. Yeah. You want to talk about it?
Well, as far as I understand, it's taking, I don't know if you would call it notable, but very imperfect step toward transparency in the food system. Yeah. So starting July 1st, which happened already, all meat, eggs, milk, and foie gras sold in the country will have to be labeled if they come from animals subjected to painful practices, including castration, tail docking, dehorning, or force feeding without anesthesia. What?
And cutting off a frog's legs without anesthesia.
I mean, these are obviously, these are business as usual, these types of procedures. And I don't have to tell our listeners that all of these things happen regularly. And I guess on the positive side, Switzerland's new rule forces the curtain to lift a little.
A little. I mean, and then also force feeding. And the force feeding was part of a compromise, because there was a really popular initiative aiming to ban foie gras imports completely. So this is what they did instead. So it's definitely not perfect, because there's a million other horrible things that happen to animals on factory farms. And does this imply that these are the only bad things and the rest of it is like totally humane? Kind of.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Does this present any opportunities for law to step in? And
my knowledge of Swiss law is somewhat limited.
I feel like, didn't you give a talk? You gave a talk. We went to Switzerland.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I understood all of their laws.
I guess what I'm saying is,
there's an amazing I just interviewed Raphael Fasel, who is Swiss. Didn't interview him about this. Let's get him back. Anyway, there might be some legal implications, and the fact is that even if it implies to people that these are the only bad things, this is going to be hard for the industry. They have to do these things. Well, I think they do use anesthetic for castrating animals in Switzerland. They're so civilized there. Anyway, interesting.
I love Switzerland. Do you remember we went to? There's a lot of Turkish. A large Turkish community there, and a lot of Turkish food, therefore. And there was a fully vegan Turkish restaurant that we went to in Switzerland. Yummy. Yeah, it was like super cool. All right, so do you want to talk
the other thing I wanted to mention, I don't have to spend a long time on it. I suggest you go see it. It's a post from We Animals, which of course is the extraordinary photography
project
organization,
media platform. Yes.
Yeah. Based largely in photography. And they have put out an amazing report on investigation called The Real Cost of Eggs, but worldwide. I mean, they're really trying to go for worldwide influence here of the battery cage system, how bad it is. Dozens of countries were included, and just showing how normal this is. Interestingly, in this context, this is not geared towards individuals. It is a corporate campaign, and it is against the battery cage, not specifically against keeping hens for laying eggs at all. So they are taking the more modern approach in this particular campaign, not in everything, of using this information to try to sway corporate and governmental, possibly governmental entities, rather than going for individuals to go vegan and stop eating eggs. Interesting, because this is very, very powerful photography, of course. Yeah,
Joanne MacArthur is brilliant.
I
got to see her briefly.
The best of the best.
I got to see her briefly at the AVA conference recently, which was lovely.
And it's not only their campaign. It's a campaign that's in collaboration with the Open Wing Alliance, which is the global coalition established by the Humane League that is trying to get hens out of cages.
And I feel like this article, this sort of also...
Sorry I keep doing this. I have a mosquito bite.
Oh, I'm sorry that you do. But yay for the mosquito.
I fed him today.
Yeah, that was good. So
enjoyed it.
This does kind of relate also to...
That's what people think we're like.
Yeah, totally. And they're not entirely wrong.
I don't know. I do not offer my arm to mosquitoes for lunch. I don't. Just not that good a person.
You're a horrible person, clearly.
A monster.
So your law review article, which is
that's right. I kind of forgot. Thank you for reminding me. I wanted to mention it.
This is about like how when the law collides with the moral imperative to rescue suffering animals, whose side should we be on? And I think that's more or less the question that you took up in your very personal essay, which was honoring the late and great Sherry Kolb And it was called Desperate Times and Desperate Measures When Is Rescuing Animals, quote, necessary. And I would say it's like, from my perspective, it's as much a legal exploration as it is a love letter to Sherry. And Sherry was a towering figure in vegan scholarship and criminal law, and her intellectual debates really helped shape your views.
Well, the reason I wanted to mention it today in particular was because I think it really relates to this question of, theories of change and the place of seeing what's happening to animals in the context of the many different theories of change, which I kind of, summarize how I see them, which is kind of what we talked about today, how they've moved away from, just viewing animal cruelty. And my thought in this, like, talking about open rescue and the legality or lack thereof of it, had to do with it's the process of exposing what is happening to animals. The thing that will change people is the process of exposing, but you have to get them to see it. And one of the things that animal rescuers do, open rescuers, is put their own lives on the line and their own freedom on the line. Because people, this is taking us right back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this episode. People like stories about people. And by doing that and showing what's happening to the animals in the context of them doing these incredibly risky rescues in the middle of the night, they get people to see. And that seems to be exactly in coordination with this theory that if you get people to actually look at what's happening to animals, it actually does change them. The trick is getting them to see it. And I think open rescue, I think that is the main feature of open rescue, is that it has come up with a way, not good enough because, it's not like they're getting coverage all over the place, but that gets some people to see. And so I thought it really fit in here as a discussion of a theory of change. And I also just wanted to mention that, this is about how using the necessity defense at your trial, which basically says that you commit what would have been a crime in order to avoid a greater harm than the criminal law is there to create a violation for. And so I think it fits perfectly when animals are rescued to save their lives. And, as the result of what would have been a theft isn't a theft anymore because it was necessary. Anyway, Zoe Rosenberg, who will be up for trial on her rescue of 4 hens soon, I think it was just today, denied the ability to use the necessity defense at her trial because the court, in what I think was just the most cynical, and other California courts have done the same, it's the most cynical, ridiculous idea, held that because when you rescue an animal, when you're acting to protect an animal, that is not a necessity under the necessity defense, which is ridiculous. Of course it is. I mean, just like if you ran into a burning building to rescue a dog, of course you couldn't be prosecuted for trespass. Anyway, that's a lot of information, but it's also relevant. It's all coming together. Like, I just feel a lot of things are coming together these days.
Yeah, I love the way you just brought that on home. And I think that's a great note to end on. Just a heads up, though, we won't have an interview this Friday since it's the 4th of July, but we'll be back next week with, of course, Rising Anxieties and the Hen Report and a conversation with John Sabanmatsu. Do you think I said that right? Sabanmatsu.
My guess would say that's right. We'll find out.
It's about his brand new book, The Omnivore's Deception, which is a bold look at what we get wrong about meat and animals and ourselves. And so in the meantime, don't forget to join us if you're a Flock member for a very special bonus segment, which is a very moving reading from artist Darren Suazo that we just had to share. He just wrote the most beautiful poem about animals. And if you like today's episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcast or a comment on YouTube. It helps new listeners find the show. And if you're able, please consider supporting our work at ourhenhouse.org/support. Huge thanks to Vicki Beechler and Jen Riley for their help behind the scenes. And as always, our hen house is your hen house. So we'll talk to you next time.